Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome back to another episode of For Checking TV. I'm your host, Doug Glacky, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Trevin Catellus and Scotty Porterfield. Boys, how we doing?
Good.
Doing very
Good.
well.
No Peyton this week. He's on vacation. Scotty, go ahead.
Very well this Monday evening. I just also came back from vacation. I was down in Ocean City for a couple of days, so happy to be back here on Forechecking, of course.
There you go. There you go. I don't think I'm doing a vacation right away though. I think I'm gonna do one like in October. I think I'm gonna go to like Orange Beach, Alabama, and just go down there for a couple days and just do whatever the hell I'm gonna do down there. I don't know. You guys know I'm not a big beach person, so like, God knows what I'm gonna do. But anyway, we're gonna get into it. The Tampa Bay Lightning are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Andrei Vasilevsky, Conn Smythe winner, probably solidifying himself as easily by far and wide the best goalie in the league, best goalie on the planet. He was absolutely incredible. 4-0 in elimination games, and I think a good chunk of those were shutouts. So absolutely insane stuff from him. But Montreal, man, you gotta tip your cap to them. They held it together for the longest time, and Carey Price was unreal. Big thing I want to touch on is their assistant coach Luke Richardson was unreal when he had to come in and be the head coach of the team whenever Dominique Ducharme had COVID. So much to the point that Luke Richardson should probably be the next head coach of the Montreal Canadiens and not Dominique Ducharme, but that's going to be a story for another time.
One thing we think we have to do is just marvel at how quickly Tampa Bay turned things around in the last 2 years. Let's go back to 2019. After they won the President's Trophy and were then swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean, we all remember the fallout from that. Remember the apology tweet that went up and just how cringeworthy everything was. Like, it honestly was about as pretty close to as low as you can get in terms of that franchise, because everyone was thinking, wow, these guys are just never going to win. And now here they are 2 years later, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Say what you will about them. I understand that obviously they're under different circumstances and whatnot, but it's not easy winning the NHL. Dynasties aren't really a thing anymore. And to see Tampa pretty much handle business the way they needed to, the way they should have done for the longest time, you got to give credit where credit's due. So tip your cap to the Lightning, and we'll see what they can do next year.
Yeah, it was honestly a miracle after that 2019 series against Columbus that they didn't blow it up, because honestly, after that, any other team in the league blows it up. People get traded, guys get shipped out, and that team's never the same. But they had, I think, a big part of what helped them become like a championship roster is like, their complementary guys got a lot better. Bringing in Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow took them from a really good team to a championship team. Anthony Cirelli actually being able to come in and have the impact that he had early on in his career has been huge, because their center depth is ridiculous. And as we get into expansion talk, their center depth may change. So we'll get into that in a minute or two. But anything else you guys want to add on the Stanley Cup final?
I got some stuff from Montreal, not necessarily kind of throw out to you guys, because I heard a hot take about this. Obviously, I brought this up to you guys before the show, but for the viewers as well, some of the things to know about Montreal moving forward here real quick, just to look at, I looked into some of those injuries that you don't necessarily see that people play through, but are going to have surgeries at the end of the season. I know we just talked about it. Brendan Gallagher, Shea Weber, and Carey Price. All three are set to have some surgeries, like after the season's over here, which it is, and that will sideline them, and bench them, I guess, for the remainder of the season for next season, unless they would make playoffs and they have a chance to come back. There are a lot of players I met that Thomas Tatar does not want to come back. Just big players like that from Montreal that we all know that they don't want to play for that team anymore. They want to move out of there. So they're going to switch up lineups. I mean, obviously you got to bring some new people in, but the hot take I want to bring up to you guys, and I want to see if you can agree with this. I actually heard this from another source on Twitter. A comparison for Carey Price's career, comparing it right up against Henrik Lundqvist's. Now, here's what they had. They're both gold medalists in their respective countries teams. Both up in age a little bit. At times played for not the best teams in the league, but had those 1 or 2 years there where they got really hot, just like Montreal did this year. New York had a couple of years where they got hot there, but he was the goaltender. Of course, that was that 1 year they lost to the LA Kings in the Stanley Cup final. Montreal here losing to Tampa Bay in that one in this cup run here, both in 5 games as well. But at that point, they never got a chance to go back to that big game after that. Henrik Lundqvist never went back to that game, the big Stanley Cup final, and will Carey Price get to go back as well. And that's the thing. Like, looking at both of those side by side, how similar are they in you guys' eyes between Carey Price and Henrik Lundqvist via their career?
Before I get into this, I just want to say that Gallagher, Weber, and Price are all perfectly fine. TK, you got duped by a fake account. But anyway, so the question is, who's better, Lundqvist or Carey Price?
Kind of, sort of. Like, I just like reading off like those comparisons, how all they're saying. Like, they both got to that big game, lost in 5 games with a team that's not so good, but eventually got there, but couldn't get all the way. Gold medalists with both their teams. How much do they compare likeliness in their careers for you guys?
They're pretty similar, but I would take Henrik Lundqvist in a heartbeat because, during all that time where Carey Price was the so-called best goalie in the world and putting up some pretty average numbers, Henrik Lundqvist was the actual best goalie in the world. 1 game playoff guy I would take in net, obviously, like, from our lifetime, but like I'm excluding like guys like, Brodeur and Dominic Hasek, because like we were really young whenever they played and whenever they were really good. But like for guys in the 2010s, 1 game playoff, you're taking Henrik Lundqvist, man. Like when he's locked in, it's like he's on a completely different planet.
I'm actually going to go with Carey Price on this one. I think, obviously TK mentioned, how similar their careers are. Obviously, they both have Vezinas to their credit and whatnot. They've both been in the finals, of course. The one thing that separates Carey Price from Henrik Lundqvist to me, Carey Price has an MVP season. Henrik Lundqvist never had one of those. And I think that's something that we got to factor in too. It's not often, it's incredibly rare that goalies are bringing home the MVP. I think the only 2 that I can think of that did it were Hasek and Jose Theodore. One who, he had that random year where he was MVP for whatever reason. Again, not important, but
Canadian voting
always helps, right? But like I said, I think that's the thing that separates him the most, is that Lundqvist may have been the best goalie, but he was never the clear-cut best player in hockey. Think about that. They're the best player in the league. Okay. There was 1 year where Carey Price, whether he had the Canadian media on his side or not, clearly had enough votes to be thought of as the best player in hockey. And I think that's what separates those 2 between Price and Lundqvist.
I like it.
I like it a lot. Yeah. All right, guys. So now you ready to get into the big fun part of our episode?
Yes, please.
All right. Seattle Kraken mock expansion draft, baby. We're gonna go through all 30 eligible teams, and we're gonna pick them. We're gonna argue. Some of us are probably gonna get pissed off at each other, but here we go. Starting off with the Anaheim Ducks.
Let's mention that Vegas is exempt, because that pisses me off already, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Vegas is exempt. They get to hold on to their 2 world-class goalies and try and cap dump Fleury in the summer. because of course they do. And I can't ever have a summer of peace without people screaming into the night for Marc-Andre Fleury to come home to Pittsburgh. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to get into it here. The Anaheim Ducks are on the clock for the Seattle Kraken. I'm just going to come out and say it. They will have a trade in place where they select Adam Henrique.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah. And my secondary pick, if they do not go Adam Henrique, would be young defenseman Josh Mahura. As always, just like the Ducks had in the last expansion draft, they have so many good defensemen that they're going to lose somebody. Someone's going to slip through the cracks. And for me, it would probably be Josh Mahura because they will end up protecting Hayden Fleury because they just gave up like a crap load of assets for him at the deadline. So there you have it. Guys, go ahead.
I'm going to go the forward route here. However, I'm not going to go with Adam Henrique. I'm going to go with a younger forward. How are you feeling about Sam Steele? Can you potentially see Sam Steele ending up with the Kraken? Because here's the thing. I mean, obviously he dominated juniors and he had 2 good seasons with the Ducks, obviously kind of fell off last year, but he's still young. He's 23 years old, and I can guarantee he can find his game again. Obviously, like I said, he didn't produce like they wanted him to, but look at the team he's playing on. He's playing for the Ducks. They're terrible, you know? So there are reasons for optimism. He knows how to hit the net. I think it's a safe selection, and he has room to grow as well. So I feel like that would be the right way to go if you're going to be the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, the Seattle Kraken.
I mean, for me, like looking through this, obviously, my first thought was, okay, well, you can take a UFA, but obviously, if Seattle wants to take one of the UFAs, they're going to have to sign him at the free agency, especially if Anaheim's not going to re-sign him, because I haven't looked, in my opinion, to see, or in my own case, to see who Anaheim or any of these teams have re-signed that were UFAs already. But just lists that I was gathering, obviously, you got a couple of veterans that are UFAs or were UFAs. I know Getzlaf and David Backes were on the list. I don't know if Getzlaf re-signed or not. I'm not exactly sure on that. But according to what I've found so far, I didn't see them any. I see obviously Scotty about Sam Steele, Adam Henrique. I saw them look to take a trade for that, but I also didn't see anywhere that they were 100% protecting Maxime Courtois either. And that was
He's exempt.
Exempt. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
him and Trevor Zegras are both exempt, as well as Jimmy Drexel. So
yeah, so in that case, then I'm probably gonna have to agree with you then, Doug, and take Adam Henrique with that, because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know never to say this in the world, but I'm going to anyway. To base it off of a freaking video game in NHL 21, but anytime you go play that game, Anaheim wants to dump off Adam Henrique so damn bad. So let's just let Seattle have him.
Yeah, and the thing with Henrique is he puts up really good numbers in terms of like analytics and metrics and things of that nature. It's just the contract is just so damn bad, you know, and they have so many centers to begin with, because you got to think your 1, 2, 3 right now is Zegras, Sam Steele, and Isaac Lundstrom, and there's still a chance in 2 weeks you're going to end up drafting Matty Beniers. So you're really losing the true need for someone like Adam Henrique. The Arizona Coyotes are an interesting one. The big thing to look into would be their goaltending situation. And their goaltending situation, they're projected to protect Darcy Kemper, which would leave Aiden Hill exposed. And I think Aiden Hill is one of those guys that you take a chance on, because he has the ability to be a starter at the NHL level. I think that he'd be a great 1A, 1B tandem type of goalie with whoever the Kraken end up with. And I think that he has the chance to become a true number 1. So my pick would be Aiden Hill.
I was gonna think of Hill too, but I think at the same time the Coyotes know that this guy is pretty good and he could end up potentially being a goalie of the future for them. So I could see them honestly, I could see them maybe sending like a draft pick in order to protect that, in order to, sway Seattle away from Hill. And maybe they go after like a younger defenseman or something like that. I was looking at a couple names here. This one kid came up, Kyle Capobianco. I hope I'm saying that right. He was one name that came up. I feel like at the very least, you add depth to the blue line because he is a younger guy. Like I said, he's only 23 years old. And for Arizona, like you said, Dougie, Aiden Hill is way too important to this team. And I feel like if you don't really want to lose that guy because, Darcy Kemper's a good goalie, obviously, but I feel like Aiden Hill could be much more valuable down the road as opposed to Kemper. So I think if that's what the Coyotes want to do, if they're cool with letting go of Hill, then so be it. But if they really value him, I'm sure they'd be willing to send a pick over to Seattle just to, sort of sway them away.
And this is my hot take. If it's not Aiden Hill, this will be the time where we see a UFA signing. For the Kraken, that they would sign like Jordan Osterley or Alex Goligoski to a contract, and that would be who they take from the Coyotes.
That's exactly where I was going, Doug, because I was looking at this list and I'm like, the only person anywhere decent in my mind that would have a chance of going would have been Aiden Hill, which you guys brought up. But the amount of UFAs that would be available for Seattle to take is, extraordinary to do that. So like you mentioned, Goligoski's out there. Hjalmarsson's out there. I know he's up in age a little bit as well with Goligoski. Demers is out. Jason Demers is out there. He's up in age too.
Mm-hmm.
Osterley, the cancerous Derek Brassard is out there. And then Antti Ranta is also out there as a UFA for them. So I'm going to agree with that they'll just go ahead and do a UFA off of Arizona if they can't get Aiden Hill.
Yeah, I like that. Up next, the Boston Bruins. This is an interesting one because a lot of the guys that you would think they'd have to protect are going to be UFAs.
And they're all free agents.
They're all free agents. You're not like literally like the only big guys they have to protect is like, Pasta, Charlie McAvoy, Bergeron, and Marchand. I could see them, going this route and taking pending RFA in Andre Katra. He was out most of the year. And I don't know if, the Bruins would want to protect him with all the question marks surrounding whether or not he's going to be able to, produce at the level that he was producing at prior to the injury.
One thing that was like, I feel like with Kasha, like you said, there is a little bit of uncertainty there in his sense. So maybe you trying to strengthen the back end because that's one thing Boston always has. They always have defensemen. And the one guy that I was thinking about was Jeremy Lausen. First off, he's a young guy. He just turned 24. He was huge for Boston on their penalty kill this year. And I think he could provide the same sort of value to Seattle as well. He's a solid all-around defenseman. I don't feel like that's a guy you can pass up on as opposed to Andre Kasha, who, is still battling injuries and may not return to the form that he once was.
For me, like I said, there's, like Doug mentioned too, there's not a whole lot of people you have to really protect on this because everybody's going away. Unless of course they re-sign. Both goaltenders are UFAs. Tuukka Rask and Halak. They're both UFAs. If you can take one of them, that's a decent pickup for goalie as well. But it ain't gonna happen, most likely. Jared Tenorti's a UFA. That'd be a good pick. Mike Riley, you could take him. David Krejci's up in age. And the real question is Taylor Hall going to re-sign with Boston? Is he going to try his luck somewhere else? Could he end up in Seattle?
No way. No way in hell. But really, for the Bruins, the real quality options lie in their defense because the three guys you're going to protect are going to be McAvoy, Carlo, and Matt Grizzly. Mm-hmm. And that's going to leave Connor Clifton, Jakob Zboril, and just like Scotty just said, Jeremy Lauzon exposed. All those guys are really young, and they've proven that they can play at a high level and some of them in top four roles. Also, fun fact, who do you think the protected goalie is for the Bruins?
Who? Darth Vader.
Yes, Dan Vladar is being protected because both goalies are UFAs, like TK said, and Jeremy Swayman is exempt.
Mhm.
So, other one could be Nick Ritchie. I could also see Jake DeBrusk being exposed over like a Nick Ritchie or an Andre Kasha because I don't know what it is, man, but Bruce Cassidy cannot stand it, and I got a feeling that 15, 20 years from now, we're going to get Jake DeBrusk on some sort of podcast, like a Spit and Chicklets type deal, and he's just going to go off on Bruce Cassidy. Remember how Bates Battaglia blew up on Bruce Cassidy on the on Chicklets? It's gonna be the same thing.
Yep.
So
I think they'd honestly protect a Nick Ritchie. I think they would actually consider protecting Ritchie, truth be told, as opposed to, like you said, Akasha or a Jake DeBrusk. I feel like he has some value to the depth of that Boston team, and obviously they're going to need it because you're not 100% certain you're going to be able to re-sign some of these guys in free agency. So you got to keep some of your big guns around, and Nick Ritchie's definitely one of those guys. So I think they're going to protect him in this expansion draft.
yeah, I agree. So now we're on to everybody's favorite team, the Buffalo Sabres.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And let me tell you, I have no idea what the hell to even do here, because most of the people that are going to be left exposed on this team are actual bad players.
And half the ones they're protecting are most likely going to get traded.
Yes.
Reinhardt's a protector. Ristolainen's on a protection. Eichel is protected, and he's most likely going to go. Yeah, I agree.
That's probably like the only reasonable one because you're not going to take Cody Eakin. You're not going to take Kyle Okposo. Carter Hutton's washed. Matt Irwin is literally an AHL defenseman.
There's a couple of the ones I had on here, I was fine. And Tage Thompson was being protected because of everybody else being that bad.
The only way I could see them, maybe they get Jeff Skinner to waive his no move clause and they leave him exposed, so they can protect Tage Thompson. I don't know, man.
What I thought they were going to do, honestly, I figured they would try and get him to take Cody Eakin. I feel like you got to order. I feel like if you're going to avoid them taking Thompson, you have to throw in a prospect, and you have that second round pick with Boston. You still have that pick that you got in the Taylor Hall deal. So if you throw those two in, I feel like, Seattle be like, all right, fine, we'll take Cody Eakin. Why not? I feel like they'd be willing to, make that sacrifice.
Plus, I feel like there's value in the fact that Cody Eakin has been through the expansion process before.
Yeah, he was in the last one. Seattle, Vegas took him last time. That's right.
Yeah, I think that there's value in the fact that, he could be helpful in some way, shape, or form to guys that just randomly were like, hey, our teams don't want us, and now we're all just in this random ass city.
Yeah. So, I also saw hot takes on Seattle taking Rasmus Asplund.
I saw that too.
And then obviously you get a bunch of UFAs for them too, but most of the people, as you said, are not great at all. Linus Olmark, but
he's a UFA.
Yeah, but he's not that great either, to be honest. Like you said, most of the players that are there are not great. So that's a hard one. I mean, you're literally picking from a pile of mostly crap from Buffalo, because everybody who's actually decent is protected, and half of those are being traded. So who do you really have left to pick from?
Yeah, I mean, I could see Rasmus Asplund going to Seattle. That's the big thing that we're going to get into probably later with the Vancouver Canucks and Cole Lind. There's guys that haven't really played in the NHL yet that are eligible for this thing, and they're good prospects. And it's to the point of, okay, do we, in a sense, screw over one of our players that are currently on our roster? We know what they do. We know who they are to protect this guy.
Right.
That's the interesting thing. But we're going to move on now to the Calgary Flames. And this is another one that's interesting because every single expansion draft projection I've seen has them taking the captain, Mark Giordano. I think that this might be the, Giordano going to Calgary might be the flurry of this expansion draft because, you're obviously going to protect Noah Hannafin and Rasmus Anderson. And you're going to protect Chris Tanev because you just tied up a bunch of money in him last year, And this protection list I'm looking at has has Milan Lucic waiving his no movement clause to be exposed to Seattle. So in that case, one of Andrew Mangiapane or Dylan Dubé are in the protection list.
Well, I was fine with Mangiapane, but
yeah, I think they're going to protect Dylan Dubé regardless. The one that would be on the bubble would be Mangiapane if Lucic decides to pull a Kevin Bieksa and not waive his no movement clause. So what are you guys thinking about this one? Because I feel like there's only literally one clear-cut choice.
The only other one that I could possibly think of would be Oliver Kylington. Might be the only other one that I would consider Calgary.
Yeah.
If you're really that paranoid about losing your captain and Giordano, maybe send a prospect in a pick so that way you can keep Giordano because obviously he still has some value, and that maybe you can sway them to take Kylington. But other than that, it's like you said, Dougie, everyone seems pretty set on the fact that Giordano is going to be like the I don't want to say the face of the franchise in Seattle, but he could end up being that should they go that route. But if Calgary really values Giordano, I feel like they will, make the right moves in order for that to happen. So we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I was just looking from my take. I told Doug yesterday about Lucic, what I was looking at with the new movement and them trying to dump him off to Seattle to try and take that $5.25 million hit. But a couple of UFAs on that too, which they could, obviously have to go sign, but Derek Ryan would be a UFA from Calgary.
Yeah.
And Josh Levo and Brett Ritchie. Michael Stone is a UFA also. There's just some options there you could throw out for a UFA from them, but I probably have to agree with the Giordano move because that's the only thing that seems like a clear-cut choice right now, other than like what Scotty said, trying to persuade him to take someone else. But it just has to be Giordano. You're gonna need some kind of veteran face on there, and a lot of the players from any of these teams that are out there, there's not a whole lot of said veterans just basically being sitting there waiting to be taken. But Giordano's kind of falling in that route, so I'd have to agree with you guys on that one.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would like would be them potentially signing Derek Ryan to be like their fourth line center. Something like that. And now we move on to the Carolina Hurricanes. Before we get into this conversation, I want both of you to know that Marty Necas is exempt from the expansion draft. So what I'm currently looking at, their projected protected forward list would consist of Sebastian Aho, Morgan Geekie, Nino Niederreiter, Jordan Stahl, Andrei Svechnikov, Teuvo Teravainen, and our favorite player in the world, Vincent Trocheck. And defenseman wise, you got Pesce, Jacob Slavin, and I hate this one, but they're protecting Brady Shea. Which basically sets up for them to take Jake Bean. That's going to be the grand theft of this expansion draft is them taking Jake Bean. And it's going to be a damn shame because, you know, similar to how Justin Falk screwed the Blues out of being able to keep Alex Petrangelo, Brady Shea is going to cause, or the Hurricanes, like, whatever, like, desire to have Brady Shea on this roster is going not only going to screw them out of Dougie Hamilton, it's going to screw them out of Jake Bean as well. And it already screwed them out of Hayden Fleury. So that's bad business there, my friends. That is very bad business there.
I think I see Seattle going more the Warren Fogle route, truth be told.
I can see that too. Okay.
Here's the thing. I feel like he's kind of getting buried in Carolina right now. You know, you look at his ice, he's only getting about 14 minutes a night. But as far as metrics are concerned, I'm not, you know, a huge analytics guy, but, you know, sometimes you got to factor it in. He's got great possession and goal metrics for the Hurricanes, given the fact that he is playing on a limited amount of ice time. If you give him a chance to elevate his game and maybe even, you know, crack the top 6 line in Seattle, I mean, I think that's a better route as opposed to Jake Bean. I think he's got more of a, you know, more potential to do damage there. I feel like right now he just can't do it in Carolina because he's playing behind Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov. So I feel like that'd be a better way for Seattle to go because he can just grow into a better player there.
I'm agreeing with Scotty on that. When I first looked at the list, I was like, okay, maybe Jake Bean. Svechnikov was an RFA, but obviously they're going to protect him as well as Nedeljkovic. And the other one that left there was Warren Fogle. And I'm like, I was right with you there, Scotty. And like he's a great player. He has a lot of potential. You know, he's quick, he's physical, everything you need for a good player, but he's drowned out because how many other great players are stacked on that Carolina roster that he doesn't get any chance to prove it. So I'm not gonna repeat everything that Scotty just said, but he hit the nail on the head. I'm gonna go with Warren Fogle as well, Scotty.
Yeah, I could see them going the Warren Fogle route. You guys know that I like Warren Fogle a lot, and you know, I would hate for them to take him because I want the Hurricanes to kind of use him as a trade asset so that you know, you could somehow wind up in Pittsburgh on a line with Malkin, but whatever.
Keep dreaming, Doug.
The Chicago Blackhawks. Let's see what we've got going on here.
Nikita Zadorov.
I don't know, man. That would be something. That would be something.
Either him or Gaudette.
One thing we got a question now is who's the other defenseman that gets protected now that Keith's gone? Because there's probably going to be Keith, Stillman, and Connor Murphy, most likely.
Yeah.
So now who steps into that role?
I have Calvin DeHaan, possibly.
Listen, I know Stan Bowman well enough from making fun of him for the past like 10 plus years. That man is protecting Nikita Zadorov. There's no doubt in my mind he's protecting Nikita Zadorov. Just simply because DeHaan's contract's pretty bad. You know, if they could take a bloated cap hit off of them, they'd be in business. But this is the protected list I'm looking at right now in terms of forwards. You got Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Strome, Brandon Hazel, Henrik Borgstrom, and Adam Gaudette. So my hot take is they take Colin Delia, the goalie. Let him be your number 3. Let him be the guy that goes to the AHL, similar to how Oscar Dansk was whenever he got selected for the Blue Jackets by Vegas.
I have him going the goalie route there too, but I was going to go with Subban instead. I think it only makes sense to select a goalie here. I mean, Chicago doesn't have much to offer anywhere else. Not to mention, like you kind of said, like we kind of touched on before, you know, Subban, you know, sort of knows the ways of the expansion draft. Obviously, he didn't really get selected in the expansion draft, but he was there whenever Vegas had their inaugural season. He was the backup for Flower there, so I feel like they could just, you know, go that way again if they wanted to. like you said, being a top 3 or, at least being the head guy in the AHL.
Yeah, the only other guy I could see them going with would be David Camp, because he's a really, really good defensive, like bottom 6 forward. And I think with just how Ron Francis builds teams, he would value that. But I think that Colin Dealey is a pretty safe pick, or Malcolm Subban as well. TK, what are you thinking, buddy?
There's a couple of these as I went through the other night, looking at them like, okay, well, I have no freaking idea for this team, but only thing I'm going to mention with this one, I'm going to let you guys make your picks on that. The only thing I'm going to mention is the one UFA is Finney Hinostroza. So if you really were in dire need, just go maybe sign him out of the free agency. But other than that, man, I'm kind of stuck with this one.
All righty. The Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, God.
And this is going to be where the whole damn thing falls off the rails. Because I think it's pretty obvious you're going to make a trade with the Kraken for them to take Eric Johnson.
Yes.
And a trade that I literally just made up in my head like 10 seconds ago would be like Shane Bowers in the 3rd round pick for the right for them to take Eric Johnson, because, man, that's $6 million of cap space. And it's not even the fact that it's $6 million of cap space. The Avalanche have too damn many defensemen than they know what to do with. And it would be a damn shame if they had to lose Ryan Graves or Devon Taves because of how many talented guys they have on the back end.
But Johnson currently has a no movement clause.
They will find a way to make him waive it. I don't care. I genuinely think that's what they'll do, or else they'll like throw a conditional pick at them, and the condition will be like they don't touch, any of the defensemen, and they take like JT Compher or something.
Right.
One guy I think that, kind of getting slept on here in Colorado that could end up getting picked should they, not take any trades on Eric Johnson would be Jonas Donskoy. He's kind of in the same boat as Fogle in the sense that like he's kind of in that middle bottom 6 range. He's kind of getting buried behind the other guys. He's a skilled hockey player and he's pretty smart. But the problem is, he gets overshadowed by Nate McKinnon and company. He can produce if he's given the opportunity. He had a career high in goals last year, and he's been, consistently a 30-point player throughout his career. And he can play on, both special teams, whether it's the power play or the penalty kill. I think that Jonas Donskoy would be a decent option for those guys. You can honestly put him in the top 6, I think.
Yeah, he could be like a Tomas Tatar type player where he just plays in the top 6 and kind of balls out. Another one I just need to say, just with everything that's been going on with them. Do you expose Nazem Kadri?
Yes and no.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the only reason I threw that out there is because, like, I know that they've been trying to move him, and maybe they're struggling to move him, and they just say, screw it, we're going to expose him.
There's going to come a point where a team's going to need a 3rd-line center, or they're going to need more depth up the middle.
Yeah.
Got to hold on to that guy, because eventually someone's going to cave and say, all right, Colorado, what do you want for Kadri? I feel like at some point that's going to happen. So you might as well protect him just on the off chance that, hey, we will eventually find a suitor for him, because if you just let him go into Seattle and get nothing for him, it's a waste. I feel like you have to at least protect him and then, continue to shop him around, because eventually there's going to be a team that needs him. It's going to happen at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even saying trade to a contender. I could see him going somewhere like Ottawa, because he's a great player. He's a really good, like, professional guy. It's just the only issue that he has is he gets too worked up in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's not reliable.
So why not go to a rebuilder and just be that guy, be like the team dad, and like help those young guys get going?
How old is Kadri? Just offhand, how old is he now?
I think he's like 29. He's still young-ish. He's still young with it. I think he was just his draft year, I think, was 2009.
He's 30. He'll be 31 in October. So
Okay. It's not bad.
no.
So now we move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Hey, Doug, real quick before you do that.
What's up? What you got, buddy?
Obviously, my pick would have been, even though it kills me and kills all of us, they're probably gonna have taken Graves, unless they can protect him in some way. But there's another name I threw in here was Kiefer Sherwood. If they played around enough to get him to take him, it's a possibility. And Grubauer and Dubnyk are both UFAs, which is wild to me, but it is what it is. They didn't re-sign Grubauer yet, but
yeah, no. The thing is with these UFAs, man, like it's so rare that they sign a contract with the expansion team to begin with. Like the only guy in the last draft I think that signed a contract was Derek England, and it's because he was from Vegas. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And I like the idea of Kiefer Sherwood. It's like a nice little off the wall depth piece. And speaking of off the wall depth pieces, we're going to move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets, where I'm going to tell you they're going to select a guy you all have never even heard of. At least the two of you, I would think. They're going to select Kevin Stenlund. Like there's really nothing intriguing with this team. All their good players that they have are going to be protected. So they'll go Kevin Stenlund. He'll be a really good bottom six piece. Think like a Thomas Nosek type of player for Vegas, where you're just like, who the hell is this guy? And then like 6 months from now, you're watching the team in the playoffs and you're like, damn, this guy's pretty good. So
that was my pick there too, Dougie, because like you said, you're protecting Atkinson, you're protecting Gus Nyquist, you're protecting Laine, Jenner, Bjorkstrand, Domi, and Roslovic. And on the back end, they're probably going to protect Seth Jones, Zach Werenski, and Gavrikov, and Korpisalo is going to be a goalie. So I think Stenlund's the perfect fit there. He's versatile, he's got size, he's a competitor. He's going to be great. He's a great fourth liner. He's a great fit there in Seattle, I'd say.
I had a hot take. I'm just throwing this out there because Columbus is complete crap most of the time. That Seattle in some way would pull move and grab Texier off that roster, but I'm not sure if it's possible. But I know he's not in a protected list right now.
I don't know, man. I don't see it. I think he might be exempt.
It's possible. Nothing's listed
I'm
here.
I'm gonna look around. I'm looking real quick because
I know he's not on a protected list anywhere that I saw.
Waivers exempt. I know that. He's waivers exempt.
If he's waivers exempt, then he's probably expansion exempt as well.
Sam would go for Bemstrom, Tynakov, Greg Hoffman, and Andrew Peak as well. They're all waivers exempt. So I don't know if that goes in hand with the expansion draft or not, but
yeah, I think that he's going to be protected or be around in some way, shape, or form. Now we move on to all of our least favorite team. Literally just the bane of this entire show's existence. Your 2019-2020 Stanley Cup finalists, the Dallas Stars, baby. All right. Dallas, man. I have absolutely no idea how the hell this is going to go. Actually, wait, I do. Jason Dickinson. I think that they will.
I think Dallas is going to protect him. Truthfully.
Really?
I do. I think they're going to protect him. I don't see that. I think that Seattle's going to take Hudobin here.
Okay.
I'm looking at a list right now, and Jason Dickinson is protected. So, that's interesting.
So I think Hudobin's the obvious choice there in this scenario. He's proven that he can be a reliable starter when needed to be. I feel like, he's one of the best in terms of, under contract goalies. What they can do, and I have another pick for a team later on down the road. I feel like they're going to do like a 1A, 1B type deal with, another goalie potentially. Like I said, we'll have to wait till we get further on down the road before we, before I say who it is, obviously. But Hugh Dobin's going to be one of those guys for sure.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
tough one. Go ahead,
I
Doug.
would have never thought of that. That's really off the wall there, and I like it. So go ahead, TK.
This is a tough one. I mean, I know I keep bringing up all the UFAs, but I'm just you guys pick the ones that are really good, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kind of agree with that. So I'm just bringing up the UFAs. Alexiak, Cogliano, Vatanen, and Pysyk are just to name a couple of them that are UFAs out of Dallas. So those are also, something to think about. Just again, signing them, you'd have to do that. Another one that I don't know if he's exempt or not. He might be. Is Kivi Ranta. I don't know. Is he exempt?
I don't think he's exempt, but I don't think they would take him.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not on any protected list anywhere, so
Yeah.
just an option.
Kiviranta is waivers exempt.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right. So you guys ready to move on here? Detroit Red Wings. Evgeny Svechnikov.
Yep.
That's pretty much the pick. Literally, so like I'm looking at this and notable unprotected players: Evgeny Svechnikov, Giovanni Smith, and Gustav Lindstrom. And it's like the most proven one out of the three is probably Evgeny Svechnikov, even though we all know he's so unproven, it's ridiculous.
What was that last one you said, Dougie?
Gustav Lindstrom.
I think that Detroit will protect him and Smith, actually. I think he'll protect both those guys. And I think my pick for Detroit was Vladislav Domestikov.
Okay.
Because that's an affordable contract that you can, send off to a contending team that needs some depth. So, I mean, maybe throughout they can go with it potentially. I don't know. But I don't think, Nemesnikov is going to be a guy that sticks around. Just depending on how the season goes for Seattle, I feel like that's a guy you can just dump off on another team because I got to check his cap hit here. Yeah, he's only making $2 million this year. So
yeah,
you need a depth piece on the wing or maybe even at center if you want to go that route. Not a bad option to have there. Just something to think about.
Yeah, it's tough with some of these guys that I just said they're going to be unprotected because the list I'm looking at, they have Michael Rasmussen protected because he's an unproven commodity, and Adam Ernie in the next couple of weeks here, he's going to get signed to a multi-year contract extension in Detroit, so he's going to be protected as well. Their list is pretty rock solid, especially on defense. You got Philip Hronek, Troy Stecher, and Dennis Cholowski. All three of those guys are guys you're going to end up building around, and I think that Troy Stecher is well on his way to being a top-tier defenseman, finally. So, I mean, it's tough when you get to these teams that are like this bad because like you're looking at it and you're just like, there's really nothing here. They're just going to pick somebody that some random scout they hired believes in, and that's just going to be how that cookie crumbles. TK, do you have anything else to add with this one?
I only had one other player that was just on the bubble. I don't think they're even going to look at him, but I don't even know how to pronounce his name, to be honest. Christian DeJeus or whatever his name is.
Christian Juice, yeah.
He was an option. It's not protected. He's an RFA. It's an option, but I don't think Seattle's going to look at him. I was originally on your pick, Doug, with Svechnikov, but then Scotty brought up his good point with Nemestikov. So I'm on a fence with both of your picks here. I'm like riding that line in between your screens of Zoom right here. Who to go with? But that's all I got for that.
Yeah. Now we're going to move on to the Edmonton Oilers, and protection lists flip-flop. We have a 1-for-1 trade in the Chicago Blackhawks protected list and the Edmonton Oilers protected list of Duncan Keith for Caleb Jones. So Duncan Keith will end up being protected in this thing. And I'm going to go goalie here. Stuart Skinner. I could see him being one because, like, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is protected now because he just signed that extension. You know, let me see who would come off their protected list. Jujhar Khaira maybe could be an option. It's funny, this list has them protecting Josh Archibald, which I think is hilarious. You know, it kind of freaks me out, makes me mad a little bit. But I would think it would be either Jujhar Khaira or Stuart Skinner. You know, because with Stuart Skinner, it's a guy you can put in the AHL and have him be your AHL starter.
See, I'm going the other way. I'm protecting Stuart Skinner. I feel like I'd rather lose a Mikko Koskinen or an Alex Stalock as opposed to him. That's just my preference. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I don't know. One name that I did see pop up here, I want to run by you guys here. William Lagesson. Is that how you say that? That could be one option. I mean, I don't know what kind of deal you'd have to. I mean, I'm assuming you're gonna have to offer a deal to make that work. I don't know what it would be offhand, but I feel like if you were gonna offer up a sacrifice, that would be the one. You know, they could have some flexibility with a 25-year-old defenseman. That's just one name that I saw that could potentially happen.
The one that I had, I know Peyton would have a little crying moment right now if he was in here because he had a great love for this player when he was a former Penguin. Was Dom Cahoon. Doug, brought that up to you last night. He's moved around a good bit. You know, he's pretty familiar with moving cities right now, but you know, he's not one of the top guys up there in Edmonton. You know, he's playing, but he's not anywhere near saying, okay, well, we definitely want to keep this guy. You know, he's just willing to move just like he did from Pittsburgh to Buffalo and from Buffalo to here. You know, so I could definitely see Cahoon being up for the taking, and I think Seattle would definitely have a thought about, hey, you know, this could be a decent move for us, and Cahoon could be on his way to Seattle.
Yeah, I actually take back my pick because I like the Dom Cahoon thing a lot more, especially for an expansion team like Seattle. Moving forward, the Florida Panthers.
Whew.
I see no way in hell they don't sign Chris Driedger. I think that he's the guy because there's not really a whole lot of, you know, like a defenseman you could take could be Gustav Forsling, who's a good young depth puck moving defenseman, and then like, you know, Mason Marchment and Noah Chari are both going to be exposed as well. So maybe one of those two, but outside of that, I think that Chris Driedger is the obvious one.
So here's going to be my hot take. I have Seattle taking Keith Yandle, and let me explain why.
I'm ready.
It's clear that Keith Yandle doesn't want to be in Florida anymore. He's getting benched by his coach. He was benched in the playoffs, so I feel like he'd be willing to waive his no movement clause so that he can go somewhere and have a bigger role, which he would should he go to Seattle. With that being said, like you mentioned, they have a goalie named Chris Driedger who's pretty good, so you're going to want to hold on to him. So what are you willing to give up? You're going to give Seattle your 2021 first-round pick. I think that's what it would have to take in order to make that work.
Okay. My pick was going to be Lucas Wallmark, but I mean, you got a couple UFAs out there. You know, Gusev's out there at a UFA.
He's exempt.
Is he?
Yeah,
Um,
for whatever reason he's exempt. Yeah.
And then Montour and Wenberg are also UFAs. Wenberg would be decent. Yeah, but he's a UFA.
Yeah.
So you have to sign. But if I'm picking off of somebody that's it would be taken right now, it's an UFA. It was either Forsling or Walmart, and I was just going with Walmart. That's all I have for that.
All right, let's move on to the Los Angeles Kings.
Oh boy.
This one is another one where, it's pretty bleak as to where they could go with this.
There are no UFAs, just so we're all clear.
I'm looking at a projected protected list right now. And we got Andreas Athanasiou, Dustin Brown, Carl Grunstrom, Alex Iafallo, Adrian Kempe, Anze Kopitar, and Leafs legend Trevor Moore.
Did you say
On defense,
Arvidsson? Or no?
Arvidsson would slide in here. I would take Moore off and put Arvidsson on.
Okay.
I'd take Athanasiou off and put Arvidsson on. Just me, though.
I like that. Okay. Drew Doughty, Matt Roy, and Sean Walker are your protected guys. And then Cal Peterson would be your goalie. The guy I have them taking here is Austin Wagner. Really good physical fourth line left winger. I think that he would fit well in Seattle. And again, it's one of those things, man, where when you get into an expansion draft and you're taken from 30 other teams, not every guy you're going to get is going to be a stud. So my pick here would be Austin Wagner. I think he'd be decent depth for them. And, like I said, it's tough to predict what's going on there,
I'm going to go with the
What do you
defenseman.
guys think?
They have this kid, Cale Clegg. I think that's how you say the name, right?
Yeah.
Cale Clegg. I mean, talk about a huge potential, face of your decor if you really wanted to go there. Everywhere he's been at, he's been a contributor on the blue line. He was a WHL Defenseman of the Year back in 2017-18. He was an AHL All-Star 2019-20. There's a lot of potential for him to develop into a useful defenseman. And I think he'd get the chance to do the same at the NHL level should he go with the Seattle Kraken. CK, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, what went on with the camera there? We'll get it back in a minute. But I had a wild take of Jared Anderson Dolan. I don't know if he was still with the Kings or not, if he moved. But I had that being the pick for Seattle. I don't know if that sounds stupid or not, but that was my pick.
Yeah, I like the Cale Clegg thing that Scotty brought up, because last week, whenever we had Jordy Cunningham on, we were literally just talking about how Todd McClellan hasn't been given Cale Clegg a run at the NHL level. He's been using Mikey Anderson a lot more. And, I could see that being something. Now we're going to move on to the Minnesota Wild. And with the Wild, you're looking defense, It's a coin flip between, and it basically comes down to who they protect, It's going to either be Carson Soucy or Matt Dumba.
I'm going the Matt. That's where I'm going.
I like the Matt Dumba pick. I think that Matt Dumba would be sick here for the Kraken, a guy who could probably be an assistant captain right away and be a very underrated face of your franchise.
He's going to be if they do go the Dumba route, he's the steal of the draft.
100%. He is the Shea Theodore of the draft.
He's, he played his junior hockey in Portland. He can play top minutes if you need him to. If you put him in the right situation, he can have a 10 and 30 year. I really think he could. Yeah. So I think Dumba's the obvious choice there. And real quick before I get lost, obviously, I saw a report, just sticking with Minnesota. I saw a report that dollar bill Kirill turned down an 8-year offer worth about $9 million annually from the Wild. I mean, what do you think does he think he's worth more than that? Or I mean, that's a lot of coin to say no to.
You're young. You got to take that.
I think it's the term. I think he wants more of like a 4 or 5 year deal and not to be locked into something that long. Because you got to keep in mind, he's older. Like he's like 24, 25, right?
Mm-hmm.
He signs an 8-year deal with Minnesota. He's basically locking himself into Minnesota for the rest of his career. And I don't know. I mean, as much as I love watching the Wild play and how different they've been since Fiala and Kirill came onto the scene, I wouldn't make a commitment to the Minnesota Wild for 8 years. So, I get it. That Joel Eriksson, that contract though, that is beautiful, beautiful stuff right there. Just fucking chef's kiss, phenomenal contract. But do you guys have anything else to add?
I was agreeing with Matt
Pretty
Dumba,
much.
so
Yeah,
Matt
I
Dumba.
think it's going to be Matt Dumba. Matt Dumba is the guy. Now we move on to the Montreal Canadiens.
my God.
And, I think they signed Jake Allen to that extension last summer with the intention of him going to the Kraken. I don't know. I think that might be something that goes on here. Because just like a lot of teams that we've talked about so far, most of their good players are exempt for the most part, So it's tough to really think about, who they could protect. I'm looking right now. Like protection list on forwards: Brendan Gallagher, Josh Anderson, Jonathan Drouin, Toffoli, Arturi Lehkonen, Jake Evans, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Because Suzuki, Caulfield, and Ryan Poehling are all exempt. They don't need to be protected. And then defense, you got Shea Weber, Jeff Petrie, and Ben Sherratt. Carey Price would be the goalie, obviously. And Alexander Romanov is exempt, Like all your big young guys are exempt. Another underrated one that might be somebody is Cale Fleury. Young defensive prospect who just barely makes the expansion exposure requirements, who could potentially be taken. But if I were the Canadiens, I'd expose Ben Sherratt and protect Cale Fleury. So what do you guys think?
So I have a little more value in Jake Allen for some reason, because I think he did show flashes of brilliance this year. And, there's not always a guarantee that Carey Price is always going to be healthy. And you need a good thing, and you need someone to fall back on. And I think that's a great option to have. So I think you send 2 picks to the Kraken in order for them to take Paul Byron.
Buddy, okay.
Just because they
get down
do,
with that.
like you said, I forget the guy's name you just said. Remind me again, the young one that was, still on the list.
Fleury.
Yeah, Cale Fleury. Again, it's another guy you'd be scared to lose. I'd be willing to part ways with Paul Byron, but not any of those other guys. So maybe you got to throw a couple picks Seattle's way to get them to take on that, take him on. That's probably the only way I'd see that going down.
My way was trying to sign a me, because as I mentioned to you guys before the show, Thomas Tatar does not want to come back to Montreal. I know that's a big contract though for Seattle to try and sign and take on though. Philip Deneau is not set on coming back to Montreal. Joe Armia isn't either. Then you still have Eric Gustafson, John Merrill, and Eric Stahl. That'll be UFAs.
Yeah, I agree. Now, this is where we get to a fun one because we're going to move on to a team here who might be our first team that uses the 8 forward, 1 goalie protection. And that is the Nashville Predators. Looking at a list right now, they're doing 8-1. So it's Philip at forward. You got Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, Luke Cunnin, and Cal Yarncroke. Obviously, that may be subject to change because we all know that Kelly Yarncroke has been in trade talks recently and could be moved within the next week or so before the expansion draft. And on defense, you got Roman Yossi, Ryan Ellis, Matthias Ekholm, Dante Fabro, and your goaltender would be UC Saros. But, Matt Duchene is out there for the taking for the Kraken, potentially. That could be somebody who could be, and another good one that they could take, Colton Sissons. He's a really, really good bottom 6 forward on a decent contract. He's kind of on like a Brandon Tanev type contract where it's a lower cap hit or a manageable cap hit for a bunch of years though. So that might be something that they do. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
I'm thinking center too, but I'm thinking Ryan Johansson.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got the $8 million cap hit. That's obviously going to be, that's obviously going to take its toll. But he's turning 29 at the end of July. You need to market a guy. I think he'll be just fine in Seattle's top 6 for the next few seasons. Even though he had a down year in Nashville this year, I think he could still produce and be the number 1 center in Seattle. I think he's he's reliable defensively, and if you need a team leader, that's a guy you want there. I honestly think he could be an integral part of the Kraken. I think he has those, little intangibles that maybe Matt Duchene doesn't offer. That's just my take, though.
This one was tough for me. I agree with Duchene. Johansson's a nice look there, Scotty. I was looking at. There's a bunch of people like the list that I had. They were protecting 3 forwards, 5 defensemen, and a goalie. And only forwards were Forsberg, Yarncroke, and Cunnin. And we already looked at Yarncroke's receiving calls, or possibly for trade. So he might not even be on there. A player I didn't see on the list. I don't know, Doug, if you mentioned on your list or not. I don't quite remember. Was Tolvanen? I don't even remember mentioning him on your list or not.
He's exempt.
Is he exempt? Okay.
Exempt, yeah.
A bunch of UFAs, obviously. Again, you have out there. Granlund's a UFA. I don't know. I like Granlund for some reason just because he's so freaking fast.
Mm-hmm.
Holla is a UFA. And Pecorine is a veteran goaltender, but I don't think they're going anywhere towards signing Pecorine. So,
yeah, I agree with that. Another interesting one that we got to talk about is the New Jersey Devils. I'm looking at a protection list right now where PK Subban is left exposed, but a lot of the talk throughout things that I've seen on Twitter, YouTube videos, things of that nature, Will Butcher will be exposed and he will be taken by the Kraken. Thoughts on that, guys?
I was thinking more of the Michael McLeod route. He's kind of similar to Stenlund in the sense that, he's going to bring some offense to the 4th line this year. He had 9 goals. He had 9 goals with the Devils this year and kind of impressed me, in that sense, even though there wasn't much to cheer about in New Jersey. I feel like that's a good depth piece to have. So if you have a little bit off, if you have that, that offensive output on the 4th line, you'll take that and you'll be happy with it. So I think Mike McLeod would be the way to go for New Jersey.
my question for my pick before I even say anything is Nick Merkley exempt?
No, Nick Merkley, I'm looking at on this list, Nick Merkley is exposed because Michael McLeod is protected.
Then that's my pick. Nick Merkley is my pick.
Yeah, I think you could see him being somebody that the Kraken take a chance on because, he was a high draft player, had a cup of coffee with like a team or two and just moved around a lot in a bunch of different trades. So I could see him being somebody that the Kraken would look at and look to take a chance on. Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those teams that's weird because, like, you have guys like Igor Sharangovich who had a breakout season that now, like, you have to protect. Like he came into this season as a bubble guy and he was phenomenal. So, anything else that you guys want to add?
That's all I got.
Okay,
Moving on.
the New York Islanders. This one is interesting because there's so many no movement clauses on this roster. It's ridiculous. I think that they're going to make a trade where they give like a pick to Seattle for them to select a certain player to avoid, losing somebody big like, I don't know, like somebody that could be exposed here that is a big part of their future, but they don't have.
I think Eberle.
Is Kiefer Bellows.
Yeah.
Kiefer Bellows, Otto Koivula, also exposed. These are like big prospects for them that have been doing a lot of quality things in Bridgeport that look like they're a part of the team's future. But, so like this is the protected list I'm looking at right now. You got Brock Nelson, Eberle, Barzell, JG Pajot, Bailey, Beauvillier, and Anders Lee. And then on defense, you got Pelech and Pollock, Scott Mayfield, and Semyon Varlamov in goal. Because Sorokin's exempt, and I mean, dude, like this is an interesting one because also Michael Dal Coll would be exposed to Seattle. Like a lot of really good young guys. And big thing that came out today is that the New York Islanders are trying to shop Nick Leddy. So who's to say that Nick Leddy doesn't somehow find his way in Seattle?
I would like them to sign one of the UFAs, but that's just me.
I think you're going to switch out somebody with Josh Bailey and leave him exposed. And I think Seattle takes Josh Bailey.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like he's got the expensive cap hit. He's at $5 million over the next 3 seasons. But you can't question his playmaking ability. And you can't question his leadership. I think that's something that you can help grow a franchise with. So I see Josh Bailey potentially ending up in Seattle.
Like I was mentioning with the UFAs, I would like obviously I feel like I'm a broken record keep mentioning UFAs, but Casey Cizikas is a UFA. Don't know if any of these players are exempt or not. Travis Zajac carries a big hit. He's older as well, but he's also a UFA. Andy Green's a UFA. It's more that veteran on that roster. Braden Coburn and Kyle Palmieri. I feel like Kyle Palmieri would fit decently on that roster, but again, UFA. I could see Eberle somehow going though, for some wild reason. Some trade happens and Eberle goes.
Yeah, I could see that too. To move on here, the New York Rangers. Again, another team with a bunch of young forwards, a bunch of young guys that are exempt. Like every big guy you can think of is exempt, including Adam Fox. So Fox, Miller, Shesterkin, Lafreniere, and Capicaco are all exempt. That is phenomenal stuff right there for the Rangers. But I think that the player they end up taking would be Brett Howden. He's going to end up being exposed. He didn't have the best season this year with the Rangers. If you look at anything from metrics to shot suppression numbers, things of that nature, he's not good. He hasn't had good returns thus far at the beginning of his NHL career. So, and obviously, they say notable exposed like Tony D'Angelo, but like, no shit. Like, he's going to get bought out. He's going to go to Russia and go do whatever the hell it is that he does there, So I think, I think it's going to be Brett Howden. I think Brett Howden's the guy. The only other guy that might potentially come in would be Colin Blackwell, but Colin Blackwell had such a great year this year that I think they protect him over Brett Howden.
I think that's the guy they end up taking, truth be told.
Okay.
I think he's the most appealing Rangers option, because here's the thing that you got to think about too. That's another guy where it's kind of like Nemestikov, where you can flip him to a contender and he's cheap depth. His cap hit's only $700,000.
Yeah, he's making league men, baby.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you don't even have to keep him. You can send him to a contender in March. So that's something else to think about too. Thinking long term.
This was one of the teams that wanted to see, just like Chicago. This is my second team that I'm like cross me out on, because every player that I would have said is either protected or exempt, or I guess exempt because I knew the ones that were going to be protected. But so I'm kind of stuck here. If Kreider didn't have a no movement clause, I'd say maybe they something would happen to get him out of there, but I don't know. I'm a little stuck there, so I'm pretty much done with that one.
All right, on to the Ottawa Senators now. Again, another team that's kind of like a coin flip. Notable goalies that'll be exposed for them are probably going to be Matt Murray and Joey Decord. Or no, not Matt Murray. I think they'll protect Matt Murray and Philip Gustafson will be exposed.
Switch that. I think they're going to protect Gustafson and leave Murray exposed.
Yep.
Okay. I can live with that. But the guy who I think the pick is here is going to be Chris Tierney.
Same.
He can be a really good quality third line center for you. And again, if things don't work out in Seattle right away, he could be somebody you ship out at the deadline to a contender, and he can be a good bottom six forward for you.
Exactly. He's a guy who can play all 3 forward positions. And like you said, Dougie, solid trade bait if Seattle wants to sell at the trade deadline next year. He's perfect for a middle 6 role on a young team.
I'm with you guys on that. So we're all in a good consensus on Tierney for Ottawa. We can go ahead.
All righty. So now we move on to the Philadelphia Flyers. Jakub Voracek. It's going to be Jake Voracek, I think. I know that they've been talking about moving him, and I think that he could be one of those rare, like, shock and awe type of things, like where it's like, holy hell, this guy's going to Seattle, or this guy got left unprotected. I think that he might be one of the guys that go there.
I'm going to go defense here. I'm going to go with Philippe Myers.
Nice. Okay.
Some great possession numbers for a Flyers team that was pretty underwhelming last year. And he's got that attractive contract coming in at 2.55 for the next 2 years. So I think that's another option to go to there.
That's an interesting one. The list I had him being protected as well. But again, every list is different, so you never know. My original pick was before we got into it more, and I made this pick way back because the player has been talked about for other teams as well with Scott Laughton. But looking right now, he's to be protected. So in that case, I'd go ahead and go with the Voracek option. But Scott Laughton was my original pick.
Yeah, it's Philly's one of those teams. It's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what happens with Jake Voracek, because that's another one like Duchesne. Like Duchesne and Johansson both in Nashville might be one of the 2 guys that end up on Seattle. contract's very inflated, but the player is still very good. He can still provide value for you. He can be one of the very few legitimate top line wingers that you can select in this expansion draft. And speaking of legitimate top line wingers that might be up for grabs for Seattle, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Penguins. There is growing suspicion that Jason Zucker is the guy. And he's one of those guys, like, dude, I genuinely believe Jason Zucker could come into this team day one and be their captain. Just with the type of player that he is. And
Even if you have Giordano?
But if they don't take Giordano, I could see Zucker being the captain day one of the Kraken. Because he is, dude, he's a phenomenal locker room guy. He's a great person. Him and his wife Carly do amazing things in the community, and the city of Seattle would be blessed to have both of them help represent their brand and their hockey team. Shit, I'm actually getting sad right now. I genuinely like you guys know how hard I've been pushing for Jason Zucker to be good in Pittsburgh, but it's not working. Other options, other ways they could go. Teddy Bluger could end up, that's the one in the back of my mind that I'm hoping for. Or a wild one that I saw today from the boys at Evolving Hockey. They have the Kraken taking Mike Matheson. My soul would leave my body. I don't think it's going to happen.
Patterson.
But
I said that's Dougie's wet dream right there. Is if they took Mike Patterson.
Dude, legit. Because you got to think of all the stuff it sets up. It keeps Pedersen and Marino together. You have the entire Bluger line, and you can use Jason Zucker as a trade asset.
Would be nice.
And when we talk about Jason Zucker being used as a trade asset, Vladimir Tarasenko, come on down.
Well, like you said, Dougie, I feel like Jason Zucker's going to Seattle. I feel like he will bounce back because obviously he had to deal with a lot of injuries this year. That's the thing that I think a lot of people forget when they talk about him. He's going to be in Seattle's top 6. He's only 29 years old, but that's a guy that can put up 40 points in a season for you. He can play your top 3 lines and your power play. He's defensively responsible, and most of all, he wants to win. That's what's important to him. That's why it's such a great addition for Seattle there. So,
yeah, we've seen it so many times, where, the guy might not have been scoring goals, but just balls to the wall in the back check, just playing every game like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. It's crazy. TK, do you have anything to add?
I threw out Aston Reese before, but that's about all I have in addition to that.
Yeah, obviously Aston Reese has been talked about, I feel like, for most of the past year in terms of a guy who could potentially go to Seattle. Even more so now, knowing that Jeff Carter needs to be protected. I don't know. You guys know that I would hate to lose Aston Reese. I would probably be a wreck if they lost Zach Aston Reese because of how good he is defensively and the fact that, people don't like giving him his due, but he's literally the quarterback of that fourth line. Everything runs through him. Now we're going to move on to the San Jose Sharks. And really, I think it comes down to 2 guys, one forward and one defenseman. It's either going to be Dylan Gambrell or Radim Seaman. I think that they lean more Gambrell here because he's a younger guy, and that he could be, he could be one of those guys like William Karlsson, where it's an unproven commodity and he just reaches his potential and becomes a great player. So, what do you guys think?
There's this prospect that I saw, this kid, Jonathan Dahlin.
Okay.
He's 23 years old. He's a winger, and he had 71 points in 45 games last year for Timrå. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that or not, but it's a team over in Sweden. Mm-hmm. At this point, why not? Why not take a chance on that I think it's intriguing. Maybe he's a little bit older, but I figured why not? I don't think the Sharks expose anyone noteworthy. I feel like that's a guy that's worth taking a chance on at least. So maybe
My one list had him protected, which was wild. But then I had my pick was Ryan Donato.
Yeah,
So
I could see that.
I think they'll protect him before they protect Dolan.
I agree. We shall see.
All right, moving on. The St. Louis Blues. And would you believe it or not, this expansion draft this protection list I'm looking at has Vladimir Tarasenko exposed.
Mine has it protected, but I think he's going to be exposed.
Yeah, mine's protected too.
Notable guys that are exposed would be like they have Oscar Sundqvist exposed. That could be,
I would have protected Sundqvist.
It's tough though, because like obviously you have O'Reilly, Shen, Perron, and then like you get into it, like a couple of like younger bubble guys, but like really important guys to your team, right? You have like Sammy Blais, Ivan Barbashev, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou. Those are all guys that they probably can't afford to lose for nothing.
I'd protect Kyrou.
Yeah. Did you say protect Thomas over Kyrou?
I'd say protect both of them.
Oh yeah, I would protect both of them too. Because I think that out of all the young guys that came up for St. Louis in that 2018 Cup run, Jordan Kyrou can be better than all. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Obviously, Krug, Falk, and Parayko are the guys that are exposed. I really think Oscar Sundqvist is the pick here because part of me believes that Vladdy wouldn't waive his no movement clause to go to Seattle.
If he's requested a trade and one's out.
Or St. Louis isn't gonna, crap away a return they could potentially get out of him.
I think Seattle will take Zach Sanford, and Zach Sanford will have the same impact on the Kraken that Alex Tuck has on Vegas.
I like that.
That's also my pick. So
another guy we're forgetting about would be Vince Dunn. He'd be an intriguing option. He's somebody that can be a really, really good NHL defenseman. Just he hasn't had a fair go yet in the league, And now we move on to the Tampa Bay Lightning. What are you guys thinking? It's going to be Tyler Johnson. I think they're going to throw a pick or a prospect along with them so that it ends up being Tyler Johnson because, as it sits right now, he's like your fourth line forward, your fourth line center. And $5 million for the next 4 or 5 years to be a fourth line center, ain't it?
I ignore every offer the Tampa Bay throws at you, and you take Cal Foote.
Interesting. He's in, like he's actually.
Yeah.
He's not. Wow.
No, he's available.
Okay. Incredible.
Because here's the thing. I heard some people say, "Oh, try and get him to take on McDonough." McDonough's got that no trade clause, so unless he's willing to waive it, what other options do you have? Because you're protecting Sergachev and you're protecting Chernak, most likely.
Yeah. That's crazy. My big thing is like the Lightning have stuff to offer to the Kraken. It's just a matter of, will they take it and is it worth the Lightning doing it? Because as it sits right now, the Lightning have probably the most NHL ready goalie prospect in Hugo Ongefelt. And, I could see Taylor Radish being an intriguing option in a trade for like compensation for the Kraken as well. I'm not really sure though. But moving on, we're going to get into the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think when you're looking at the Maple Leafs, you're probably looking at a defenseman, because they're going to protect Muzzin, Riley, and TJ Brody. That leaves Travis Dermott and Justin Hall both exposed. We're both pretty damn good third pairing defensemen. Even on a bad day when you think of Justin Hall. So what do you guys think?
I'm going to go forward here, and I'm going to go with Alex Kerfoot.
Yeah, that could be.
He's played behind Matthews. He's played behind Tavares. It's time for him to shine. And you can always use more depth at center. So why not?
I mean, he could literally slot in and be their number 2 center, even their number 1 potentially.
Depending on how Manson does.
Yeah, he's so underrated. He's great defensively too. I could definitely see them looking at Alex Kerfoot, especially because with that inflated cap hit of $3.5 million, that's a lot of wiggle room for the Maple Leafs that they normally wouldn't have. So
yep,
I could see it.
And Dermott, Travis Dermott was my pick.
Okay. I mean, what'd you say?
I could see Toronto protecting Dermott, truth be told.
Yeah.
I think Toronto's going to be one of those weird teams where like they do the 4-4-1, where they go Matthews, Tavares, Marner, and Nylander for your forwards, and then Riley, Muzzin, Brody, and Dermott for your defensemen, and then you protect Jack Campbell.
I think that I think that if they did that route, I think they would for some reason take and protect Hall over Dermott.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things, man, where it's like Dermott and Hall are both big like guys of Kyle Dubas, but like Justin Hall is Dubas's main success story. Like he was the such a late bloomer. He didn't really come onto the scene until the Marlies won the Calder Cup in 17 or in 16 or 17, whichever year that was, I forget. And then he just turned into a really solid NHL defenseman. So I don't know. I could see the 4-4-1 protection though, because they don't have to protect Hyman. That's big. So I like the 4-4-1 protection system there for the Maple Leafs. Now the Vancouver Canucks. I think they're going to do another young off the wall player and take Cole Lind. What do you guys think?
Well, remember when I said earlier how Hudobin was going to be part of the 1A, 1B goalie tandem?
Braden Holtby.
Bring on Braden Holtby. He's heading into a contract year. He's going to be motivated to earn some more money, get another payday. Him and Hudobin would be a solid tandem to have.
Yeah.
You can win some games with those two in net.
Yeah, and just from like Vancouver's perspective, Mikey DiPietro is ready. Like he's ready to go. I mean, dude, like I think that he could pass up Demko within a year and a half. So I want that. I need that. Give me Braden Holtby to the Kraken just for my own personal bias.
And honestly, Dougie, I think the Canucks are better off protecting Cole Lind as opposed to, someone else, truth be told. I don't think you leave him up for exposure.
I don't disagree.
Chance.
Yeah, because you got to think of it this way, because we were talking about last week with Jordy where they might use JT Miller as a center. And if you put Cole Lind on that line with JT Miller, you could get some pretty interesting results, in my opinion. So, yeah, I agree that Holtby's going to be the pick. Now we move on to the Washington Capitals. This one's going to be interesting because they have a couple UFAs.
Hey, Doug,
Ovi, what's up?
real quick. Just to let you know, the list I was looking at
Yeah,
did not have Quinn Hughes protected, and I was like, "What the heck?"
he's probably exempt.
Okay,
Mine doesn't have that either, so I'm guessing he's.
Yeah, he's exempt.
okay. Go ahead, Doug. Let's go for the Capitals.
You're good. You know, Ovi is going to wait to sign a contract until after the expansion draft. That'll give them an extra protection slot.
Doesn't that leave him eligible though?
No, I mean, you got to think of it this way, though, dude. Is Alex Ovechkin really going to sign a contract with Seattle Kraken? There's no way. There's no way.
He could sign somewhere
There's no
else
way.
though.
But you got to understand, he has to agree to the contract first.
Right.
He's going to cycle back with the Capitals before he does anything, I would think. So this is the projected protection list I'm looking at right now. We got Nick Backstrom, Lars Eller, everyone's favorite upstanding citizen Evgeny Kuznetsov, Anthony Mantha, TJ Oshie, Connor Sherry, and another upstanding citizen in Tom Wilson.
If Seattle took
defense-
Tom Wilson, I'd probably just throw my head through a wall.
On defense, you got John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, and Justin Schultz, which I don't like that. I'm calling BS.
I consider
Brendan Dillon
those guys
should
out
be.
for Brendan Dillon.
Yeah, exactly. Brendan Dillon should be protected. The truth is, I'd go as far as leaving Schultz and Orlov both exposed and protecting Brendan Dillon and Michael Pempney. You know, notable exposed players though, Daniel Sprong.
No.
I think, you got Nick Dowd, you got the entire fourth line. Dowd, Hagelin, and Hathaway.
You have Chara, but he's a veteran.
Yeah, he's a free agent, so that's probably not going to happen. Nick Dowd. I think that could be, or another one, Vitek Vanacek.
You're protecting him.
They got to protect Samsonov.
No, I don't think so.
So
I feel more comfortable with Vanacek than I do Samsonov. Samsonov on the Capitals. That's just me.
I know.
Vanacek was the guy going into the postseason. If he didn't hurt himself in that first game against Boston, I don't know how drastic the difference would be, but still, I feel like that's the guy you got to protect over Samsonov, in my opinion. I think that the guy Seattle's going to end up taking is Nick Jensen.
Okay.
Great shot blocker, and just referring back to my earlier pick with Keith Yandel, that'd be a great unit to have right there. A tandem of Jensen and Keith Yandel. You can make that work.
My pick was Vanacek, so because I have him protecting Samsonov.
Yeah. So now we're on to our last one. Last but not least, the Winnipeg Jets. This is tough. This is one of those teams that they're very unpredictable. Right now, I'm looking at a protection list. The guys that have protected are obviously Wheeler, Scheifele, Ehlers, Connor, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And then the other two are Mason Appleton and Andrew Kopp.
I would switch out Mason Appleton with Adam Lowry.
Lowry's a free agent, though.
I'd be willing to split ways with. I'd be willing to let Appleton go as opposed to him.
Yeah, I think Well, a lot of the Seattle mocks that I've been looking at throughout the regular season had them taking Mason Appleton.
Either him
So
or Stanley.
I think that he'd be my guy. The only other, attractive option that would be out there would be Logan Stanley.
Yeah, it's going to come down to those.
Yeah. And either way, it's going to suck losing either of them because they're both still very young and they have a lot of potential that they still need to tap into.
Exactly. Appleton is just, scratching the surface of how good he can be offensively. He's fast. He can chip in from an offensive standpoint, and he can shut down your opponent's top players. Obviously, there are still some parts of his game that he needs to iron out, but truth be told, that's a guy you could build a third line around right there.
I got two hot takes for you for both of you guys for this one. Matthew Perreault was one hot take. And then I don't know if it's Forbort or what his name actually is, but he was my other hot take.
They're both
Huh? Yeah,
Oh,
both
really?
UFAs. Yep.
They weren't on my list, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, they're both UFAs.
And Dougie, just checking right now with Adam Lowry.
Yeah.
You say he was a free agent?
I thought he was. Is he not?
No, he's locked. I think he's locked up for the next 5 years. I don't know if he just signed a contract recently or not, but yeah, he's locked up for the next
He
5
signed one right before the deadline.
at 3.25, and he's got the modified no trade clause to go with it. So
Yeah, so that's who I'd protect. Then Lowry has to be protected in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Somebody has to be. In that case, Mason Appleton is the sacrifice.
Yeah.
But what you guys were saying about Zach Sanford being the Alex Tuck of the Kraken, Mason Appleton's my guy. I think that he's going to be the one who is a stud and kind of just comes onto the scene, and everybody, in hindsight, is going to be like, wow, why'd the Jets do that? So, yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on? You want to touch on the Duncan Keith trade real quick?
Yeah, we might as well. I mean, well, what was the I guess the source that you read that made you really laugh out loud about how the Oilers had the best defensive core in the NHL now? What was that one?
This is my friend. I call him my friend because every single offseason he just makes me just laugh to the point of tears. Who I send this to? So Jim Matheson, the beat writer for the Edmonton Oilers, who is just hysterical. He said Keith needs a Brent Seabrook type player as D partner, and he'll have one to watch if he's watches back if it's Larson in Edmonton. His age isn't indicative of his competition level. He's been relatively injury-free throughout his career. Oilers are in a win-now mode with McDavid, Draisaitl, and there's a third player he listed. Who do you think the third player is?
Darnell Nurse.
Yes. He literally did. Dude, he literally did McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nurse like it was Crosby, Malkin, and the time.
Wow.
Dude. And then I saw a tweet from last night. He's like, they have the best defense on paper in the NHL. I'm like, okay, let's go through this right now, old man. Oscar Klefbom. What's on the left? You got Nurse, Klefbom, and Keith. And then on the right, you have Ethan Bear, Adam Larson.
Tyson Berry. He moved. Never mind.
No, he's a free agent. It'll probably be who's that guy? Evan Bouchard or Eric, whatever his name is.
Evan Bouchard, yeah.
Evan Bouchard, yeah. He'll finally make the jump and be pretty good. But this is a good trade for the Blackhawks. Simply because it might set up a Seth Jones to Chicago trade for them. And him and Caleb will play on a pairing together. I know that the Blackhawks have been looking pretty extensively at a trade to bring in Seth Jones, and I think that them having his brother there with him would have him more apt to sign a contract extension there and stay in Chicago long term.
So here's something I'm reading is because it's funny you just brought up Oscar Klefbom. Ken Holland told the media that the chances of him playing in the 2020 and the 21-22 season are very slim. So,
Oh, buddy.
yeah. And then someone asked, why Ken Holland didn't use his leverage in the Keith trade. He said, quote, "What do you want me to get him for free? You wanted a lesser price? What did you want me to do? Do you think I paid too high of a price?" So clearly he's already
Yes.
about how he's already getting defensive on the assessment of the trade. So.
You paid too high of a price, and they should have retained salary. I don't understand this. Why every team in the NHL thinks they need to help the Chicago Blackhawks get out of their just insurmountable cap struggles, but they do it every single time. It's just crazy. But you know what? With Oscar Klefbom out for the year, boys, just like glass breaks like Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Chris Russell comes down from the concourse in the upper level on a zip line. And he comes onto the ice. It's in the Battle of Alberta. He comes onto the ice, knocks out Milan Lucic, knocks out Zach Ronaldo. And as he's walking to the penalty box, he looks at Johnny Gaudreau, does a little shimmy to him, and he just runs away.
If only.
What?
If only that could happen.
I know. My favorite one was, you got to a point like where Jim Rutherford was like cutting WWE promos with Jack Johnson.
Right.
It's like PPG paints arena goes black, and then there's a spotlight going up to the 200 level, and up there you'll see Jack Johnson in a wrestling singlet and Jim Rutherford in Sting paint. Also, something fun that Scotty texted us yesterday was the Penguins have looked into Cal Yarncroke. I love it. I love it a lot. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, we need to trade for these top end wingers." Nah, we need more Brian Rust type guys. Give me a Cal Yarncroke who can play both wings and be a quality top 9 option, be able to produce on whatever line that Mike Sullivan would put him on.
Another thing that I saw, because obviously one thing that we do have to prepare for also is the buyout candidates. There are going to be some guys that will be hitting the market here pretty soon. So, how are we thinking about some of these guys potentially? How do we feel about maybe Martin Jones?
Like if he were to get bought out?
Yeah, if he were to get bought out and the Penguins want to sign him.
I'd throw a temper tantrum.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not about it.
Okay, how about Zach Parise?
Buddy, could you imagine if we
Get
got
Zach
in on the
10 years after we wanted him?
10 years later, we're all in on the Parise train. Honestly, though, dude, like third line player, I'll take him. Dude, I'd take him with Jeff Carter.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with it. I'd take him with Malkin.
Yeah, you can honestly if we're giving up Zucker, you can honestly fill him in there. Truth be told.
Yeah, exactly. Got any other ones?
What about Paul Byron?
Dude, if Paul Byron gets bought out by the Canadians this summer, there will be a freaking arms race for him. Because the thing is, he just makes too much money. He's like, out of anybody who could potentially get bought out, he's probably the best player. He's not bad. I think, that's another one. Brian Rust type player. They could come in and play a role and play it well and be really successful, you know? What else you got?
As far as buyouts, I'm done here. But the one thing I did see, Owen Power said that he would love to be a part of the Buffalo Sabres, who own the first overall pick. Truth or
Did you?
is he telling the truth or is he lying? What do we think? If we hooked him
He's
up,
lying.
test,
He's lying because I think Kevin Adams is going to literally just jump off the draft board and take William Eklund. Did you hear about that? Like they're like all in on William Eklund right now.
really?
Yeah, like if they were to trade Jack or Stam and get like another top 10 pick in return, that's who they would go for. They'd draft William Eklund.
Wow. One last thing that I saw here. Do you guys see the picture going around social media right now of the flat Stanley Cup?
Yes.
Pat Maroon is holding the Stanley Cup, and it is absolutely bent to hell. It looks terrible. If you haven't seen it, you just look up, Pat Maroon Stanley Cup, and I mean this thing is completely like smashed. It's ridiculous.
So who do we think's responsible for it? Who do we think did it? I think it got to the Russian boat and it was just done.
Definitely.
You know, Kucherov, Chernak, Sergachev, and Vasilevsky just beat it down.
Maroon and McDonough are the two in the picture with it. So I don't know if like someone just got ignorant with it. Obviously, the cup's been messed up before. I mean, we've heard the stories of how Mario and company threw it in the pool when it got stuck. And it got pretty damaged. So I don't know, but it's just thought that was pretty funny whenever I saw that.
Yeah. I got one more buyout potentially.
Yeah.
The real deal, James Neal.
Whew. Another name from the past.
Just want to say that is the only professional athlete to be so sick of my shit that he blocked me on Twitter.
Seriously.
He ran Dumoulin in the corner, game 3 in Nashville in 17, and I got pissed off and went off on him.
And he said, "Okay, Doug Blackie, no more for you." Just blocked him.
Literally, dude. So like it started out like I was going at him like the first 2 games. I tweeted him like there's gonna be a James Neal offensive zone turnover on the power play, and the Penguins are gonna score shorty on him. I'm gonna like lose it. And then it happened in game 1. And I was like, oh look, I got you now. And then I dug up the old tweet of him saying he wanted to be a Pittsburgh Penguin forever. And I was like, I knew this was a lie then, and I know it's a lie now. And that was like Pens and 6. Dude, it was bad. It was bad. So anything else you guys want to talk about?
I think we're good, man. We've been at this for almost 2 hours now. So
Yeah, dude, this was a long one. And I still have to do something after I'm done doing this. So, all right, guys, this was our most recent episode of Forechecking TV. Find us wherever you find your podcast at, and be sure to follow us on, or to subscribe to us on YouTube. All right, guys, have a good night, and we'll talk to you again soon. Okay.